the number one sector that's been throughout and what's growing is private credit. This has been since 2021, 22, and it's growing at about 70 to 80% per year. Private credit is essentially, institutions, people getting access to loans that they wouldn't have got otherwise. So treasury is the most secure, risk-free way, I would say, of getting yields on your assets that you want to put in money market funds, and through BlackRock, they're bringing it on Ethereum.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप होते हैं.
Okay, we are live.
सबसे पहले तो अभी मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा कि नरकुंडी तूने मुझे एक फैक्ट दिया था थोड़ी देर पहले, और वो क्या फैक्ट था जो तू इतनी देर से मुझे पका रहा था उस बारे में. प्लीज हमारी ऑडियंस को भी बता, ताकि they can see the real you, you know. Please tell them, why are you laughing?
I will share the fact.
Okay.
इसको हमने बोला कि स्क्रीन शेयर करो, राइट? वही वाले फैक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं किसी और?
नहीं, एक और फैक्ट है.
ओके, लेट्स डू दैट फर्स्ट.
तो हमारे बाजू वाले ऑफिस में एक लड़की है. आज आगे तू बता दे यार. मैं नहीं, आई डोंट वांट टू किल योर स्टोरी ब्रो. बता ना, बता जल्दी बता. अरे बता दे, चुप क्यों बैठा है?
म्यूट होएगा तब बोलूंगा ना. हाँ. अर्नब जैसे बोले यार. गेस्ट को एकदम म्यूट पे डाल के लगा, आप बोलो, आंसर मी नाउ. तो थियरी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल थियरी नहीं है, फैक्ट है. आई थिंक कि सर्टेन कम्युनिटीज में कि लाइक जिनके फेस पे बाल कम आते हैं, वो लोग ज्यादा अप्रिशिएट करेंगे लोगों को कि जिनके बाल आ रहे हैं. नाउ जिनके सर पे बाल नहीं है तो वो थोड़ा सा डिसएडवांटेज पे है ऑलरेडी. बट आई थिंक जो हम लोग को कुदरती तौर पे जो मिला है गिफ्ट फ्रॉम ऊपर वाला ऑन बॉडी हेयर, आई थिंक इट्स अ मेजर प्लस फैक्टर. लोग को अपनी प्रोफाइल्स में डालना चाहिए. इफ नथिंग वर्क्स, दिस माइट.
हम स्कूल में थे ना, तो एक लड़का था who was very hairy, so we used to call him Dushum, and that stood for Dushum. That stood for dirty, hairy, unshaved man.
अच्छा राविल, एक नई दवाई का पता लगाया बाजार में.
You can put this in your bio, Dushum.
कौन सी दवाई?
Finasteride तो है ही, right? Now finasteride has been improved, and there's an improved version of finasteride called duasteride.
Oh.
So finasteride with something which apparently increases the absorption of that particular sort of compound within the body. So that's supposed to be more effective.
But is it like
switch कर लूं.
देख, फिनेस्ट्राइड का एक साइड इफेक्ट था कि जो 2 से 3% लोगों में होता है.
हाँ. I think duasteride में भी same issue है, but it does not increase the odds of it. That's for sure.
Bro, I'm saying
it's just a new and improved version of finasteride basically in the market.
For 7 to 8 months, maybe a year, you will get those Taiwanese medication.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
यार दिक्कत क्या है ना, दिक्कत क्या है, वो 8 महीने रुक तो लूंगा, बट वो 8 महीने रुकने के चक्कर में जो डैमेज हो जाएगा, ऐसा ना हो कि फिर वो भी ना आए और जो है वो भी निकल लिए.
भाई देख, वो काम तो करवाना ही है, तो 8 महीने रुक के करवा लो. Why go through the pain? और
अरे अब तो मैक्स पेन से तो गुजर चुके हैं और
पर हाँ, जो उनकी मैं रिसर्च देख रहा था, उन्होंने चूहों पे करी थी. चूहे के पेट पे जब उन्होंने लगाया तो ऐसे घने बाल उग गए थे उसके, लाइक इनसेन. सो आई वाज तो रियली होपफुल कि कि हो जाएगा अपना काम. बट आई डोंट नो,
चूहे के पेट के जैसे घने हो जाए.
अरे रुक, पहले अभी वॉट्स ऑन सिटी कर लेते हैं, फिर उसके बाद में वो ढूंढ के लास्ट के लिए दिखाऊंगा तुम्हें कि कितना वो इफेक्टिव.
वो एंड तक देखना पड़ेगा.
चलो, बाप्स ऑफ क्रिप्टो पॉडकास्ट नंबर 12. आज की ताज़ा खबर. तो सबसे पहले थोड़ी इंडिया की खबरों से स्टार्ट करते हैं. क्या हुआ नरकुंडी, सब ठीक है? ओके, ठीक है. तो इंडिया की न्यूज़ से स्टार्ट करते हैं। अपने संदीप नायवाल की अपन कल बात कर रहे थे, तो पॉलीगॉन और एएनक्यू की टीम आज जाके मोदी जी के टॉप इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर संजीव सान्याल से मिल के आए, बेसिकली टोकनाइजेशन एंड स्टेबल कॉइन्स एंड डिजिटल एसेट इनोवेशन पे। This is basically what was happening in the US, like before sort of Trump, right?
Yeah.
What kind of news that was coming out. तो अब इंडिया में स्टार्ट हो रहा है आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. Another thing, okay, let me share my screen. सबसे पहले तो, and in a very boomer way, hopefully, yes, share. All right. So crypto remittances using USDT India में, like they've taken like an rise. It's not a lot, but 4 to 5% उसपे premium भी है, but like it's starting. I'm guessing कि यार ये जो remittances हैं, ये why are people using USDT to do remittances? Like if there's like a 4 to 5% premium on it.
So the 4 to 5% premium, I think, is absolutely right, because whenever I spoke to people, that was the rate. And at that time, so whenever like dollar would trade at maybe 87, 88, the USDT buying rates at that point of time were anything in the range of 92 to 94, right? And so I think it's because of the hurdles and challenges, because moving money out of India is easy for maybe NRIs, right? But even when you are an NRI, you can only move it seamlessly from your NRE account. But if you have the money in an NRO account, it's not difficult, but there's just one more hoop that you have to jump through. You need tax clearances from your chartered accountant saying that NRO में जो पैसा पड़ा हुआ है, all of this has been or taxes have been paid on all of this. And for regular Indians, it's anyway very difficult, because there's anyway a cap on the amount of money that you can move out of the country, which I think is about $250,000 a year.
$50,000, yes.
Right, which is that LRS scheme that there is. And plus, I think when any sort of payments made, so that this is for regular Indians, if they're sort of buying anything outside the country, for example, if they want to take exposure to world market, especially Wall Street, and they want to move money out, then there's, I think, a 1% tax deducted at source, right, which is a TCS, which is collected at source. So all of these things are there. I think from this perspective, and especially if you have somebody living abroad who's studying and you want to send that person money, I think USDT just makes it a lot more easier. But yeah, definitely all of this is still unregulated in India, even though USDT is being used, and you can use these peer-to-peer channels on a Binance, etc. But you obviously can't do volume. If you have to do volume, it's done in an unregulated manner. So it's great that the Polygon team is meeting the government, but as of now, as much as I'm a bullish proponent of all of this, I don't see how it aligns with the current objectives of the government. Like the objectives of the US is very different at this stage, right?
Than India,
Their challenges currently are how can we break the debt ceiling, right? Without breaking the debt ceiling, right? And for that very purpose, USDT comes in very handy. We can probably do a separate episode on this, on how great the stable. We can probably do an entire episode on stable coins, but India's objectives are a little different right now.
Yeah, नहीं भाई, इंडिया में तो यार हमेशा से we've been like very cognizant of our fiscal deficit. यानी एक certain range से ऊपर होता है तो हमेशा हल्ला मचता है कि इतना इसका हो गया, इतना हो गया, इतना हो गया.
Absolutely.
US को वो चिंता ही नहीं, वो they can keep printing money and it can go forever, right? So
they're the creditors of the world, right?
Yeah. ठीक है. एक और था कि भाई जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि before you can see any sort of movement in altcoins, all the majors need to first run, including Bitcoin, and then ये तो आज Wintermute भी उन्होंने अपनी November market update निकाला, and they also were pretty much confirmed that. And I mean it pretty much like अभी भी ये जो rally हमने देखी कल परसों में, it pretty much lost like steam, right, within like a day or two. So it doesn't feel कि it is like there is an alt season right now, and alt BTC pairs are yet to bottom. ठीक है. Yes, SoftBank announces that it sold its entire stake in NVIDIA for 5.8 billion. So that is like a
Wow.
huge thing. Yeah. Even yani, we are seeing like all the big players are now like going a little bearish on NVIDIA. Obviously, they feel it's like the top. Michael Burry ने अपना options खोल ही लिया. उसके बाद और भी like there is quite a chatter in the market कि NVIDIA और Palantir दोनों. They
Michael Burry की जो news थी, I think that was the catalyst to put all the prices down. I mean, after that news is what we see stocks moving down.
No, so the thing is कि like
This is the bubble top
all
for
these
NVIDIA and Palantir. I mean that, to be honest, उससे पहले तक कोई नहीं बोल रहा था. It wasn't until when he opened his books तब से लोगों ने बोलना शुरू कर दिया कि यार.
Correct, but his opening the shorts might cause a local top, but it's not a top, because such events will never cause a top. Like if somebody just comes out there and says that, you know what, everything is bearish, trust me, the markets are going to go higher because shorts will get built up and those shorts are going to get squeezed out. So
but
so
go.
So his tweet is probably like a local top, but yeah, definitely we know it's overstretched. But if someone were to be chasing growth, where else would they chase growth? I mean, it's extremely overstretched from a valuation perspective, but the kind of earnings that these AI companies are reporting is also gargantuan, right? Because I was checking one very interesting data point that a price to earning ratio of maybe an NVIDIA is actually lower than a Costco and Walmart, right? So yeah, they are overstretched from an absolute perspective, but from a relative standpoint, there's probably still room for expansion, and which is why people are sort of putting their chips still on the table and no one's willing to sort of walk away.
I don't know, NVIDIA का था या Palantir का, मैं CNBC पे देख रहा था कि their price to earnings ratio is not just lower, it's like very sort of bubbly.
Yeah, there is something going on that their numbers are inflated.
100x या कुछ ऐसा वो बता रहे थे कि ऐसा कुछ difference है, like there's like a huge difference. But the reasoning that SoftBank gave why they sold their entire stake was again like sort of a sign कि they said कि उनको जो नए अब और AI projects आ रहे हैं, they want to fund that, and they feel कि NVIDIA में अब उनको इतना उस same पैसे में इतना और return नहीं मिलेगा, like so it doesn't make sense for them to like hold this, and which is right. अभी यहाँ से already इतना ऊपर है, so even if like doubles from here, right, they invest the same 5.8 billion in like smaller projects, they get much better returns, is what I'm thinking.
How much return did they make on NVIDIA?
पता नहीं, वो देखा नहीं मैंने कहीं.
20x.
Could be, but even if you look at, so we were sort of talking about price to earnings, right, and things become bubbly territory. So if you look at the PE ratio, the forward PE ratio for NVIDIA, which is for the next 12 months, is still trading at 30 times forward earnings for the next 12 months. A Costco is trading at 35-40 times earnings. So some might argue it's bubbly territory, which we definitely feel, because the entire sort of stock markets is concentrated to stocks which are either NVIDIA or things to do with AI. That's it. I mean AI and ancillary AI, right? And they're the ones who are only sort of stretching the market out. But people are sort of calling the top, and these kind of things usually end up fueling more rallies, because a bull market always rises walls of worries, right? And a bear market will always break down floors of hope and support, right? So in this case, there are these walls of worries which are getting created, that everything is stretchy and valuations are stretched. But the kind of growth, like I'm still surprised even at this valuation at which an NVIDIA is trading, right? Which is probably and it's such a short period of time. The forward earnings is still at 2930, which is, like I mentioned, which is roughly about 25% lesser than a Costco, which is often clubbed as a consumer staples brand, right? But that's trading at a higher valuation than an NVIDIA. So nobody knows what the right valuations are, and nobody knows when exuberance ends. But I don't think the music is going to stop anytime soon, though.
Yeah, but better to book little profits while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. everybody has their own targets. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing SoftBank must have realized their own profit targets. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nikhil Kamath ka tha ki they were looking at how much value is created from service-based companies. And if you look at AI, it's mainly going to disrupt in customer service and analysis, whatever function you might see. So how AI companies are looking at like, okay, if a fraction of that services-based value is captured by AI, it looks like it's still undervalued.
Exactly, and which is why even at these record high valuations, money is still finding its way there, because, like I mentioned, even at these valuations, they're still posting record earnings, right? So there's no slowdown on that front, and the forward story doesn't seem to sort of die down because everyone is sort of lapping up. Like for example, an Anthropic, an NVIDIA, an OpenAI, they're posting record earnings, right? And so there's no slowdown there, and there's no slowdown in the fact that the adoption doesn't seem to be slowing down either. So as of now, the music doesn't seem to stop. But yeah, Michael Burry has built his bear thesis. And we've also discussed this, that there is definitely a lot of overstretched valuations on that side, but which to be honest is good for the space that we operate in. Right? I mean, aside from BTC and ETH, the junk territory that we operate in, it seems to be good for that area as well. These sort of sentiments.
From my understanding, I don't think it's going to go bearish, right? I think AI is going to go into a plateau mode. It's going to go like it's going up, and then it's probably going to move through a sideways movement for some time. That's what I believe that's going to happen. And while it's moving on the sideways, I think there will be a lot of other AI support services that are probably going to take the boom then. So you have chip manufacturers, chip packagers, and all of these protocols, right? These companies that are basically right now in a plateau right now, they haven't really moved their stocks. They moved maybe 10, 20, 30% up. But these are the companies that are, if you look at it, these are the companies that are actually waiting for that plateau to happen. And that's where, like we always talk about smart money moving from, bigger assets to smaller assets, and then sort of multiplying their capital. That's, I think, where it's going to move on, because AI is not a 1 year or 2 year game plan. This is probably for the next 5, 10 years. And what's going to happen is all those support services that are lagging behind are then going to get noticed eventually, and they are going to move up.
चलो एक और खबर आई कल तुमने देखा यूनी dude
yeah
crazy what a move man like uni so basically Uniswap Labs and Uniswap Foundation introduced like a unification governance proposal to activate protocol fees for the first time and burn 100 million uni tokens. उसकी वजह से it went crazy pump. कितना pump किया like 60-70%?
60%, yeah.
45.
Yeah.
45%. Like
that 45 on the 24-hour, but from the bottom it was about 60 to 63%. Yeah.
60-odd%. Yeah.
60-odd%. Wow. And
finally the fee switch became active.
Yeah, finally. And it's a large cap, right? Like I would say.
Yeah.
And for a large cap like this to move 60% in a day is like huge. So,
yeah, bro, talking about large cap, yesterday Melania pumped.
Trump has been pumping as well, by the way.
So yesterday, all the Trump tokens sort of pumped. So Trump pumped, Melania pumped, World Liberty Finance, it pumped. World Liberty Finance was almost up 40% as well yesterday. So they all sort of moved up.
साले तेरे को बोला था मैंने ट्रम्प लेने के लिए लिया कि नहीं तूने?
No, bro. इतना volatile token है.
अभी लेगा.
नहीं, पागल है.
ठीक है. Yes. ये all season index coin market cap was showing. I don't think it's all season right now.
This is crap, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, this is crap.
TMC updates are crap. Yeah.
They are looking at just certain percentages and then talking about it.
China accuses US of stealing 127,000 Bitcoin originally hacked from Chinese mining pool Lubian in 2020. So like people are just saying they're going to just like dump it all in the market and not hold it. That's something to look into. This is not crypto news, but Olympics is set to ban all transgender athletes from female events after finding scientific evidence of advantages to being born male. Yes. Wow.
I remember that it was a boxing event, right? Where this entire thing sort of flared up.
तो वो
And I
बंदी
remember we were
transgender नहीं
discussing
थी.
this on
Yeah, the boxer was Iman Khalil or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
so she wasn't a transgender. The thing was कि she was a woman who
Oh,
had like a problem with high testosterone levels.
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
she wasn't really a
she
transgender.
wasn't.
She's just a
Yeah, she
woman with
wasn't.
a high testosterone basically in her system, and that is why. But for even in her case, they took her medals away.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah, they
did.
did.
Why?
They did. Apparently, some tests proved that no. And to be honest, this is a very rare condition, a rare scenario. ये जो ईमान वाला case था. And this is not like a man dressed as a woman. वो जो like one of those swimmers who won. I don't remember his name. He was a man who identified as a woman and was in the Olympics,
Yeah.
the women's swimming race, and then won by I don't know a mile or something. So वैसा case नहीं था. This is a very scientific case. So they were not able to confirm whether she's a man or a woman, and they were like no, because she has higher testosterone, she qualifies as a man. So that is why it was a mess. It was unfortunate for her, for him, whatever it is, but it is what it is.
Got it. चलो आज का हमारा थोड़ा क्या बोलते
आज
हैं
क्या आज की क्या
आज क्या
कहानी
बात
है?
करनी आज की कहानी
हाँ.
है RWAs कि पूरे
Oh,
टाइम हम
wow.
सुनते रहते हैं रियल वर्ल्ड एसेट्स ये वो I guess like Ethereum is being adopted by pretty much all of the RWA protocols and companies looking to tokenize assets. Obviously, because like we've spoken multiple times about it, but like we've never spoken in detail about real world assets, right? So आज
Yeah.
थोड़ी RWAs पे बात करते हैं. Let's मास्टर जी आपसे स्टार्ट करते हैं. Like in very simple terms, what are RWAs? What are the pros and cons of tokenizing assets?
Okay, so I'll keep it short. So RWAs is assets which exist outside the blockchain, right? So for example, real estate, equities, all of these things don't exist inside the blockchain, so to speak, because a price feed is different. There are people who are doing price feeds, etc. But this is the asset existing or a counterpart of the asset existing on chain. So that's what an RWA is in short. What are the pros and cons? So there are multiple pros and cons, right? But if you touch upon the critical ones, one of the pros of, say, on-chain RWA asset trading is heightened liquidity, right? Number one, you get access to more liquidity because there's a ton of liquidity sitting inside the crypto landscape, the cryptoverse, and that gets access to trade these kind of assets, right? A lot of value unlocking can be done, right? Because if, say, currently price discovery happens only through Wall Street money for any particular asset class, right? But there is a much higher speculative bunch of people who are sitting in the cryptoverse, and if they sort of get access to this sort of an asset, so for example, if an NVIDIA trades on chain as well, you can sort of see much more price discovery than what we've already seen because there's a bunch of money lying in the cryptoverse as well. Other than that, you can really have different kinds of trades. So, for example, NVIDIA is servicing the world, right? So, NVIDIA is servicing China, it's servicing Asia, it's servicing the US. You can sort of have exotic products created on chain. So, for example, somebody can be, so if say the US economy is going into a slowdown, but the Asia economy is rising. So, you can have a different kind of a market created for NVIDIA saying that I am only long NVIDIA's Asia revenue stream and I'm short NVIDIA's US revenue streams. You can have stuff like that. These are the broad sort of pros. The cons are they're not cons per se of having RWAs on chain. They're rather cons of they are cons regarding the entire setup. So number one is regulations, right? Because when you want to trade an NVIDIA or you want to trade anything which is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, you have to go through a custodian or a regulated broker. And that regulated broker has the onus of conducting a KYC, a KYB of the person who's going to trade it, right? Now, trading on chain is going to be done by decentralized wallets. How do you sort of handle the KYC aspect of it? So that sort of needs to be dealt with in a manner, and that needs to be done with. So there are a couple of startups which are dealing with that. They're sort of coming up with real world asset perps. And once you sort of have that, it becomes like a nice competition to the CME and the CMOE and COMEX and stuff like that, right? Because these are these clearing houses which are sort of managing the entire liquidity and the trading of all of these RWAs. But if say a counterpart of something similar gets created, which is like an on-chain bourse gets created, which is going to trade all of these, then you can sort of give CME, CMOE, all of these sort of exchange houses a run for their money, right? So that's one aspect. So regulations is one thing because the regulator can come down hard on these things if they're being traded in an unregulated fashion. So regulations is something that needs to be dealt with. The other biggest con is custody risk, right? So if say you're trading an NVIDIA and you think you're trading an NVIDIA, but the person who's letting you trade NVIDIA actually does not own any NVIDIA, right? You're just trading a blank price feed. Then you're not really trading the asset per se. You're trading just the price, which is effectively a perps contract, right? So if say tomorrow you want to pass on those shares from say father to son, you can't do that because you're not really owning the asset. So custody risk is one thing, but then that risk exists with a digital gold as well, right? Or the similar risk exists with an ETF as well. So if say the people who are buying the BlackRock ETF, they need to be assured of the fact that BlackRock with say a Coinbase is publishing the custody data as well. So if I'm owning 1,000 units of ETFs, which corresponds to a certain amount of BTC, I know there is BTC held in a vault on chain or with an exchange which is publishing regular data. So these are the two broad cons, and the pros, like I mentioned 2, 3. There are endless pros of having these RWAs on chain, and RWAs in a nutshell, anything that exists off chain is an RWA which you can sort of get access to in the cryptoverse.
What is like the one most interesting asset class that you've seen being tokenized?
Treasuries. I think BlackRock is doing it with its Biddle fund, right? So that's the one that comes to mind because I think overall RWA TVL is not so much, to be honest, as compared to DeFi TVL. DeFi TVL currently is about 200 bill. RWA TVL is roughly about 10% of that. I think it's about 80 to 20 bill as of now, right? So and out of that 20 bill, I think 4 bill which is roughly about I think it's about 4 odd bill, which is roughly about 20% of the entire figure. Yeah, 25 odd percent. That is the RWA Biddle, which is the RWA Biddle fund, right? And which is BlackRock. And what they've done is they've tokenized treasuries. So whatever they have in their treasury portfolio, they are sort of giving access to the cryptoverse in terms of yields. So if there is a treasury asset, so if you've say made $100 million in crypto and it's lying on chain, what do you do with that money? You can't really. Now there are risky ways of getting yield on it. Now you can go through the DeFi sort of route and get access to yield, but then you run the risk of DeFi hacks, etc. Although they've sort of dropped down drastically, I think the entire DeFi hacks today is roughly less than 0.5% of overall sort of volumes. That's nothing, especially on Ethereum. But still, you don't want to sort of go through all that. You don't understand leverage looping. Some people do leverage looping and then they make 15, 20 odd percent as well. You don't want to go through any of that. You don't want to go through any impermanent loss. You just want to sit and on yield. Now, exchanges offer that because exchanges always need liquidity. So whenever they need liquidity, they borrow it from users and they say that on USDT, I'll probably give you a 2% or a 4% or a 10%, depending on. So if an exchange is offering 10%, that means they don't have much USDT on them and then they want more. So they are attracting deposits. So if you don't want to take on that centralized risk as well, although this is also centralized from a BlackRock perspective, but you don't want to take on the risk of a centralized entity which is unregulated, like an exchange, then you can trust a BlackRock sort of these Biddle units, and you can sort of buy them, purchase them, and get access to maybe 4 or 5% yield. Whatever US Treasury is offering, BlackRock passes that on because that is effectively held in their basket of portfolio. So their asset portfolio, and they sort of pass that on to on-chain users as well. So I think that's a beautiful product that they've created, and this is an exchange of off-chain and on-chain, right? So on-chain guys accessing off-chain yield, and BlackRock is also doing the opposite, right? So BlackRock is also trying. So with maybe they'll stake ETH and they'll get access to on-chain yield. So off-chain guys are getting access to on-chain yield, and on-chain guys are getting access to off-chain yield. So that's what's happening with BlackRock Biddle.
नरकुंडी यार ये बता दे कि अभी करंट लैंडस्केप में क्या बोलते हैं कि कौन से रियल वर्ल्ड एसेट फंड्स हैं, कितना पैसा अट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं वो, और भी जो तू डेटा तूने कलेक्ट किया हमको थोड़ा उस पे ज्ञान दे दे भाई.
Your presentations, please.
Yes, presentation, please.
1 second. Let me share my
Oh,
screen.
he's got one.
No, there is no screen right now. Okay. So, Realist ne jo baat ki about US Treasury, so that is in fact the second highest share of RWA tokenized. And obviously, after BlackRock has come in, it's increasing a lot. But if you look at the overall tokenized RWA, it's slightly higher than 20 billion. It's right now at about 35 billion. Now, what's interesting in that is the number one sector that's been throughout and what's growing is private credit. This has been since 2021, 22, and it's growing at about 70 to 80% per year. Private credit is essentially, institutions, people getting access to loans that they wouldn't have got otherwise. So Treasury is the most secure, risk-free way, I would say, of getting yields on your assets that you want to put in money market funds, and through BlackRock, they're bringing it on Ethereum. Now, private credit is what's growing, and there are platforms like Ondo, Maple, who are offering you much better. So even in that, they have tiers. So the idea is that, let's say if treasuries are giving you 2 to 4%, they have tiers. So they have a, let's say tier A, which accepts only BTC and ETH as collateral, but for that, they're ready to give you about 6% yield. And there's another tier in which if you expand the collateral, but now you're getting 9%, but again, you have to keep in more collateral to access that fund. So it's more riskier. But for BTC and ETH, they feel that even a 350% C ratio is much more than enough to cover it and get those assets in. Now, these two cover itself 60, 70% of the tokenization wave. I think now that BlackRock has brought in this institutional wave, commodities, equities, forex also a little bit, that's going to come in, and that presents the next big sectors which are going to come in. After that, you have real estate. Real estate is a bit tricky because you have to look at who does the asset valuations, what price is Chainlink going to provide, is it fair value or not, how often do you have to do valuations, what's the prices in the neighborhood, etc. So it has more challenges in terms of regulation, in terms of keeping the price real, distribution, etc. But it could be an interesting way because real estate is anyways getting out of hand. Owning a house has become a dream for most people. So fractional ownership of real estate is becoming, I would say, more of a reality than owning your own house. So that could be the next wave, that once regulation, once the yield distribution, all those processes are more cleaned up and more people are willing, I think that could be the third biggest sector later on.
Got it. Tony, you've been tracking all these RWA protocols, and obviously I'm going to think a lot of them would be in the top 100 or top 200 CMC. But तू कौन से track कर रहा है, and where do you see them going?
Okay, so for me, when it comes to RWA, I have a very specific strategy. Only track protocols that are US based. One of the reasons is you can have protocols across the world, but right now the only country that is actually pushing RWA and crypto as a strategic fund and everything regulated is US, and we are seeing like we discussed just now, BlackRock and all of these guys, they have the majority liquidity share, right? So you want to look at protocols that are US based. So, and a lot of people are going to throw shade at me for this, for calling them RWA, but I think one of the top tokens that I look at when I'm talking about RWA is Chainlink. Okay, now essentially they're not RWA, we all understand that, but they are the most essential key element for all RWA assets that are moving in, right? Because they are the key price feeds providers, and it's the basic layer of infrastructure that you require for RWA. So when you're looking at RWAs and how they're going to move ahead, I think Chainlink is one of those protocols that you want to keep in mind, that you want to look in at a longer sort of time frame. Uske baad, if you're looking at any other one of the major RWA protocols that everybody knows is Ondo, right? And they have been sort of the front runners when it comes to RWA assets, and they are the ones who are basically providing the treasury services from BlackRock and everything, right? So they are US based, and something that I've been looking into is like Ritvik said,
even for as a crypto individual, if you have money in your blockchain, on blockchain assets, you have maybe Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, whatever you have. I personally now think that the DeFi protocols have become so, yes, they're smart and you can make money, but there are so many loopholes that you have to go through. You know, there are multiple layers of making money of 5 to 10%, maybe, and that's at the highest end, right? We're not talking 2020, 2021, where those values were much higher, but now the values are much lower. So protocols like Ondo, right? You can literally just move your assets there, get return on treasury yields or treasury bonds, and you're making 3-4% without doing anything, and it's much safer, much safer compared to your centralized exchanges. I mean, we've seen what happened to centralized exchanges in the past, and that's a risk that. And I'm not saying Ondo should not have that sort of risk, but if you have a big fund like BlackRock working with them, it just sort of solidifies their place in terms of security and everything, right? So Ondo becomes the second tier. Now the third is probably also a little surprise for everybody. Is called I think, let me check the name. Yeah, ZBAC network. The ticker is ZBCN. So they are also an RWA, and what they do is basically they do finance movement much like streaming. So like how you are working on Spotify, so you know you put on the salaries, and it's the employers can basically get their salaries streamed out to their app. It's so much faster, it's so much easier, and I think it's the next level of fund movement that we're looking into RWAs specifically. So you have you have real estate, you have what do you call it, called assets that you're buying or trading, and this sort of plays a key role when it comes to RWA. So that is one other protocol that I'm looking at. Then you have what else do we have? You have centrifuge. So you have again bonds, invoices, real estate, CMEs. All of that is offered through them. So there are multiple protocols, and these are all protocols that are actually based out of US. And that is why I am focused more on these 4 or 5 kind of tokens that I'm looking into. I think, and again, my outlook is not leverage trading these tokens. My outlook is not sort of trading a day trades on these tokens. My game plan with these guys is sort of investing a small amount of capital and waiting for like another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because I think, from my understanding, that is where you're going to be seeing proper returns on these protocols. This is not a protocol that you day trade. These are protocols that are going to work because what you're doing is you're bridging real world assets into crypto, right? And so you have to look at them like how you would look at BlackRock or VanEck or any other protocols, and sort of take your returns in over 5 years or 10 years period of time. So you take them in a long-term trade valuation actually.
Got it. But एक बात बता कि what is the use of their tokens in all of this process, right? Why hold it for like 2, 3? What value are they giving to me for holding it for like 3, 4, 5 years?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
So basically, तो ये इनके जो टोकन है, ये सारे प्रोटोकॉल्स के जो टोकन है, ठीक है, what value do they basically accrue over like 3, 4, 5 years, right? Because इनके टोकन का इनके प्रोटोकॉल से कोई यूटिलिटी है कि नहीं है?
There are utilities, ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं है. There are utilities. More majorly in tokens पे जो token की utility होती है वो governing utility होती है ज़्यादातर, right? And we've seen that those sort of utilities doesn't affect the protocol right away or doesn't affect the price right away, right? But in longer terms, when the protocol has to sort of make the right decisions or has to make the right sort of movement, like we just saw like with Uni, right? So it was because of the governing utility that the token just pumped. So these are the tokens that eventually pump, but they take some time. So and this is one thing we always say, that it's not always about and you can. And it's smart. You can't just have a token and have a burn mechanism for the utility, right? That is just the most stupidest utility you can have for your protocol. And a lot of protocols sell that out. Okay, we're going to buy back and burn. We're going to buy back and burn. But then why would you have the token in the first place if you just want to buy back and burn? So the idea behind token utility is, again, you have to understand it's not always the token utility. It's also as to how the token gets revenued by the protocol's performance itself as well. Right, it has to do a lot with speculation as well. Just because the revenues are higher, speculatively tokens goes higher, and that's what happens with most of the tokens as well.
Got it, understood. चलो भाई, वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशन टुडे ऑन रियल वर्ल्ड एसेट्स. आई होप कि हमारे जो 2-4 लोग हमें सुनते हैं उन्होंने कुछ सीखा होगा इससे. और
we have one follower who is very what do you say, uniform, and he listens to our podcast every day. So thank you to him, whoever it is.
उसको and his request was we do like a whole episode on MicroStrategy, so we will be doing that. And just stay tuned. एक दो podcast और देख ले, फिर उसके बाद कर देंगे. we need to reel him and keep him interested. पहली दे देंगे उसको तो फिर वो क्या देखेगा बाद में. Point, right?
Like, comment, share, follow, hit the bell icon, फिर उसके बाद रिलीज होएगा. Unlock the episode with all these actions.
ठीक है भाई, आज के लिए इतना. Thank you so much for joining in. Like, share, comment, subscribe. What does the bell icon do actually? I'm a little bit of a boomer in this. Key a notification on.
It's a notification. So if whenever you push a new video, they get notified that there's a new video out.
Got it. Ring the bell icon, please. And thank you so much for joining in. All right. See you guys.
Adios, boys.
Bye.